And we're live, hopefully. And I think that's a little bit unexpected for a lot of you, because, including me, because today is the start of daylight saving in New South Wales. And I didn't know that. And so when I put out the times for this live stream, it's happening 1 hour before I said it would in all those other places around the world. So if nobody shows up, that won't be surprising. That's right. So I said that Hagbard Celine might join, but given that I told him it would be 4 o'clock in the afternoon his time and it's only 3:05, he might not show up either. So this could be a really quick one. But we do have a couple of questions from people. Now let me see if I can get the actual live stream up here to see if anyone has arrived. Oh yeah, there's some people. Natasha, Jacob, Rum the Mug, how are we doing? Some SJ Male Feminist Balls, that's a good name. It's a bit long though. Rob, the Priestess of Keck, Michael Galloway, and Yayo, I don't know how to say that. Gazaka, our world is flat. Oh God, please make that a real comment. I hope you really do believe the world is flat. It would make my day. Hey Billy, what's going on? Jack Shepley. Same question as Michael Galloway. I've got a couple of questions already ready to go that patrons have asked. That's the way this works, if you didn't know that. And if this is your first time, if you're a virgin to these live streams are open to everybody, but only patrons or people who send money via Minds or PayPal contributors get to ask questions. And once those questions are done, you can ask your own questions. Just hold on a little minute. You can use the super chat to do that. Sean Wingfield, you're the best dude. Yeah, well, that's pretty obvious. Of course I am. Look at that. Someone just pledged $1 in the last 5 minutes, so maybe he's going to show up and ask a question as well. All right, let's just get down to it, shall we? I was going to wait around another hour for Hagbard, but I thought I'd go ahead because this was the promised time. And so if you're in Australia, if you're in New South Wales, you probably knew it was going to be 9 o'clock. I hate how daylight saving just robs you of an hour and you don't get it back for 6 months. It's very annoying. But we shall press on into the void. So let me see here. I've got to share the screen and get rid of that. Put that up there. I assume you can hear me all. Let's have a look. Dustin Churchman, g'day from Taz. Yes, Carolyn says, yes, we hear you. Yep, okay. Good one. Okay, so the questions are up there on the screen. It's only 2 of them. This won't take long. Personal question. What major events in your life to this day would you say led to you to see the world in the cynical way you do? Oh, is it that cynical? Is it that obvious? Talking to my Generation X family friends and peers, I find they tell me growing up in the neoliberal era of the 80s and 90s to have made them quite sarcastic and less idealistic than the baby boom style 70s hippies. Well, yeah, moreover, how would you reflect upon your generation? Generation X, which is what I am, is referred to as the MTV generation. So, yeah, I don't know where these stereotypes come from. I don't know if it's correct to say that Generation X is more cynical. Not sure. Perhaps less idealistic, maybe. See, cynical, sarcasm, do two different things. Sarcasm, I got my sarcasm from my father. He's got a great sense of humor, and was always sarcastic. He always had good comebacks and one-liners, so I think that's where I got it from. And high school was basically a game of hot potato of sarcasm, where from the moment you got to school, it was a shit-giving contest, and your job was to get the shit off you and get it onto somebody else. It was a hot potato. So I grew up in a group of friends who were all, well, not all, but most of them were really funny. And, yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody was funny in their own ways. And, yeah, it was that kind of environment. The cynical, I think being cynical comes with being older and realizing that things aren't what they were promised to be. I mean, all you have to do is watch successive governments that promise to do things and then they don't do them. This is a tactic that they use. They promise things that actually they know full well before they promise them that they can't fulfill them, and they get elected. I mean, that's one area of cynicism that you just build up over experience. I think it's just called life. When you live a life and you see that things aren't quite exactly as they are on TV, and maybe that's some of the cynicism. My generation is a generation that was brought up on TV. It was the first generation of, if you lived in the United States, cable TV. And the images on TV weren't exactly what it turned out to be. You might remember the scene in, oh God, I can't even remember, Fight Club. Where Brad Pitt says something like, "We were all told we were going to be movie stars and sports heroes, but we're not, and we're slowly learning that fact." So maybe that's it. Maybe it's a generation sort of hooked on, was brought up seeing all these images of fame and fortune and all of that, and realizing that most of us are not going to be those people. But I don't know about that. I'm just speculating now. It's a very broad question. I'm not that familiar with the generations and what defines them particularly, other than sort of broad generalizations that everybody knows. So I think I successfully dodged that question. Second question, do you ever see the Labor Party returning to its Hawke-Keating roots in the future? I mean, let's be honest, the party's been a joke for a long time now. Well, can't argue with that. It has been a joke for a while. Well, maybe for the benefit of people who aren't Australian, we should qualify this. So the Hawke-Keating era spans roughly 1983 to 1995. That's how long they were in government, for 12 years. And you have to remember that on the other side of the, well, let's say in the UK, Thatcher came in, a Conservative government, in 79. In the United States, Reagan was elected in 80, took office in January 81. Now in Australia, we had a Conservative government until 1983. They were thrown out. Bob Hawke's, that was a pretty successful campaign. Now you have sort of a neo-conservative economic agenda going on in the UK and the United States. It's all about markets. In Australia, despite having a left-wing government, we embraced a lot of those policies. We embraced economic liberalism, we deregulated, we floated our dollar, which we hadn't up until then. we did a lot of financial reforms, and it was actually very good. We also put in safety nets. By the early 90s, most full-time workers were on superannuation. There was an attempt to somewhat deregulate the wage system through accords, or make it, at least decentralize it. I don't know how successful that was necessarily. Suffice to say that we did a reasonable good job of economic reform under a left-wing government when the rest, the other two, sort of the UK and the US, were doing the same thing through right-wing governments. We didn't go to that extreme. As I said, we had social safety nets put in place, but it set up the economy for a boom, which we still haven't had a recession since 1991. So we've been going 26 years. I think we're due. But in that context, so if people have that context now, they can see that the Labor Party in the 80s and 90s was actually pro-business, it was pro-economy. They cut tax rates, but they weren't neoconservatives, obviously. Now, since they lost power in 95, they didn't get it back again until 2007. And in that time, the Keating left in 95, and the party sort of descended, sort of went back to its old big government roots. Mark Latham has said to me privately that a lot of the party never really believed in the sort of Hawke-Keating economic message. And so they kind of went back to their roots. And so you said here, just returning to its Hawke-Keating roots, they weren't really the Labor Party's roots. So they've gone back to, and what have they done? They've embraced identity politics, big government. They don't care about how much they spend. They don't care about deficits. They just care about promising stuff that they can't pay for. And people go, yay, yes, wouldn't it be great to have more money for your education? Let's vote for that. And if you're the Labor Party, why would you change any of that platform right now? You're winning. You're in front on the polls. The next election will be a complete annihilation of the Liberal Party. If we were to have an election today, I guess that's the only thing in the Liberal Party's favour, is that the next election's not for a couple of years. So it's pretty grim. Will they return to their roots? Doubtful, extremely doubtful. Of course, you never know what's going to happen, but in the immediate future, why would you? I mean, what they're doing seems to be winning, seems to be a winning strategy. You just sit back, let the Liberal Party tear itself apart because it doesn't have a vision of what it is. And plus your leader, Malcolm Turnbull, is sort of a, I wouldn't even say centrist at the time. He's probably left of centre. So yeah, there's not much hope of that. Mark Latham was really, a lot of people forget, if they're not old enough, they weren't around when Mark Latham was the head of the party. What now, 14 years ago, and lost that election. I think any sense of the economic message was lost when he went. You haven't seen it since. Not from any of the leaders. They've all been, look at Kevin Rudd. He was just a populist, virtue signaller. Julie Gillard, same thing. She used the woman card constantly. And Bill Shorten is the same. He plays right into the victim narrative on most issues. Won't somebody think of the children? So, hope that answers your question. No, not much hope for the Labor Party returning to some kind of Hawke-Keating era. I think that's well and truly behind us. But maybe in the future, if identity politics eventually cannibalizes itself, what have they got left? The economic policies of the left, generally speaking, have failed. That's why I think identity politics is the last stop for the left. And I think I'll leave it there with that one. Now, any questions from the peanut gallery? It's all Greek to me. Yeah, okay. Bye, Gazaka, you dickhead. Even maybe if you were here earlier, you'd understand what's going on, but you don't. So piss off. Good one. Some of my friends got 100 grand worth of guns. That's interesting. I've got one. Australia's gun laws. See, I didn't know much about that one, but I went to the Liberty Conference this year, and I went to a session on guns because I knew nothing about it and I wanted to learn something about it. So it turns out that our gun laws are pretty ridiculous. I mean, I think there was a case just recently in the last week where a gun owner sort of threatened someone who'd come onto his property. Didn't shoot him, but just threatened him. Someone who was trying to break into his property, and of course, he was the one sort of put under scrutiny, not the person breaking into his property. So I think there's some you're kind of treated as a quasi criminal just for having it. I wouldn't say that. You're definitely suspect if you are a gun owner, and I think so. I think and probably this is all residual from Port Arthur and the initial institution of gun laws. I know libertarians like David Lindholm, would like to peel them back. I just don't think it's a particularly popular issue amongst the Australian public. It's hard to tell them that, we should wind back our gun laws, which, in my opinion, don't seem to have done a hell of a lot, but certainly nothing bad has happened for having them. So it's hard to tell people why we should remove laws that haven't caused much harm, other than it's unduly restrictive on gun owners, which is a very small portion of the population. So it's not an issue that many people can get behind. Do you think there will ever be an end to the main two-party system? Do you think a centralist party? Well, I mean, I think if that's the answer is I don't know, but if we're going to have it, you'd think that it might come about in the next few years. The Liberal Party is fracturing, and you've seen obvious support go to Pauline Hanson. I think Cory Bernardi's party is growing. It certainly is. If you listen to his, I've heard him a few times say how many members he's got. It appears to be growing. He's what's he done? He joined with Family First, which I don't think that was a good move. But I guess for him, it means that he's got more candidates now. It's a bigger party, so maybe. And then you've got Hanson, you've got Bernardi. I mean, David Lindholm at the Liberal Democrats is too small, but there could be something there. I mean, there are chances for alliances. I mean, anything to do with lower taxes and smaller government, Bernardi and David Lindholm are going to line up on the same side. But I think on social issues, they're very, very different. So it's hard to see something like that. But as I said, I think, what did we see at the last election? Something like 35 or 40% of the public did not vote for a major party. And that includes people who didn't vote at all or voted in, drew a dick on their ballot and mailed it in. So it looks that way. I think there was a study out of ANU that showed that the number of people not voting for a major party has never been as high. Also, people who voted for a different party from the previous election, that was also at an all-time high. So I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. The problem is that if you have sort of libertarian or centre-right politics, which I do on definitely economic issues, the problem is the split is on the right. The left seems to be holding this alliance between Labor and Greens. which is unfortunate because the left just has to sit there and watch the right sort of implode, and they walk into government. I believe "fuck men and boys" is the current party line. I think that's a policy, but I don't think it's the whole line. All right. The New Zealand elections last week saw the decimation of the minor parties. Yeah, I didn't pay much attention to that, other than that what's her face her populism didn't translate into election victory, probably because she said that she was going to tax the hell out of people. But it'll be interesting to see which way Winston Peters steps, because he hasn't decided yet. All right. Well, what we might do now is we might take a look at, here we go, there's another question. Where do you see Australia in I mean, why do you ask these questions? What am I? Do I have a crystal ball? I'm a soothsayer? No one knows these questions, the future. What's going to happen in 10 to 20 years? I tell you what, I'm going to walk outside and there's going to be pools of lava lapping up against the front door, and I won't be able to go anywhere. That's what's going to happen. I doubt Australia's going to get through the next 10 years without a severe recession and house price collapse. Or maybe that's just me hoping so I can buy something cheap. G'day, Charlie. Full noise. How you doing? Where do you think the world's going to be in 15 years? Oh, I think it's going to be fucking floating around the sun like it usually does. Or unless you're a flat earther, be probably staying in the same place. I don't know what flat earthers believe, but God, they're dumb fucks. Any collabs with other YouTubers planned? Oh, collabs are so 2016. God, that's boring. Well, actually, today was going to be a collab of sorts of a live stream, but Hagbard, poor bugger, I told him this would start an hour later than it actually did. Oh, yeah. See, this is the kind of dumb shit that I would like to exclude from my channel. Code Connection says major recessions are scheduled by the bankers every 10 years. They're not. Okay, bankers have no ideas when recessions are going to happen. Absolutely no idea. That's a dumb conspiracy theory bullshit talking point. What do you do with your time and yourself outside of YouTube? I am never outside of YouTube. I spend my life. I am part of YouTube now. No, to clear my head, which you need to do, because when you look at all this crap that's coming in every day, the best thing I find is go for long walks. I live in a nice, it's not a wealthy area, but it's nice countryside. So I go for long walks, about 2 hours, maybe have a podcast. It's sunny and warm pretty much all year round up here. So that's what I do. And I watch movies. I do the usual stuff. Not much of a drinker. Gave that stuff up years ago. What's your take on the plebiscite scuffle? Well, my take is that the Yes campaign is trying very hard to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. With their, I have to say, I just don't understand the tactics. Like it's the self-righteousness that we've seen. I just don't understand. I mean, do you really think that sending text messages, anonymous text messages to people that you know that at least a third of them aren't yes voters, and I think the other part is I don't think it changes anyone's mind who's already got their mind firmly made up. It's the people in the middle, the people that haven't made up their mind. And I just think that this annoying virtue signaling from companies, the NRL, the AFL, Qantas, whoever else, telling you, I mean, there's an underlying message there, which is that if you vote no, you're basically a bad person. And I think that's got to turn a few people off. but I don't think it's going to turn enough people off for the no vote to get up. I mean, the polls are pretty clear. I think it was about 2/3 to a third, or even it's more like it was more like 60-30 with 10 undecided. Now the latest says it's about 57-34 with still 10 undecided. So even if those 10 undecideds go to no, the no case is not going to get up. But hey, predicting elections and surveys of this kind has not been easy in the last couple of years. But this is not really close like Brexit or the US election. I mean, there's pretty clear cut majority in favour of yes, but we'll see. We'll see. I just think that the tactics sort of baffle me. If they could have taken the high ground and just said, yeah, it's about love and let's just ignore all the haters, but they've been worse than the haters. That's the thing. Doug wants a bold prediction re our place in the solar system. I know that's sarcasm. So I think we'll just continue to be what are we? The fifth planet from the sun? I don't know, something like that. I don't have I should know that little rhyme, but I don't. Someone will correct me there. I'm sure someone's looking it up feverishly on the internet now. Oh, what is it? Do you have any suggestions on fixing global trade system? Does it need to be fixed? Current system based off USD, RRP into currency and tax doesn't seem to work. Yeah, I don't really know what that means, to be honest. I don't think the global trade system is set up that way. I mean, people have bilateral agreements all the time. So I don't know what you're talking about. Bretton Woods broke down 1971. Do you want to go back to that system? Some people would. Some people would like the US dollar to be convertible into gold. But the fact is we print way more money than we mine gold. So that's not going to happen. What made Rosie Batty's ex-husband so angry? I think he was nuts, wasn't he? He was absolutely nuts. I mean, yeah. He was out of his gourd. Will you be attending ICMI 18? Where is it? Have they announced where it is? Where's ICMI 18 going to be? Is it, if it's Northern Hemisphere, probably not, unless I make a lot of money between now and then, which is doubtful. I'm just trying to scroll back through the questions here, see if I can find one. I support gay marriage as long as both chicks are hot. Yeah. Very easy memory jingle. No. All right. No more. Birmingham. That's where it's going to be? Yeah, probably not. All right. Well, Hagbard didn't get the message, so he probably thinks the hangout is on in half an hour from now. What we were going to do was discuss why Dr. Seuss is racist, which I don't think it is. I've done a bit of reading this morning, so I might do a video on it instead. And there was also an incident at, I think it was Southern Illinois University, where a group of conservatives had what they call a free speech beach ball, and apparently it scared some other students. A beach ball. You know, you've probably seen this before. They write, free speech slogans on a ball and they pass it around and just have a bit of fun outdoors, and it got shut down. Bitcoin Am I going to? Yeah, I think I will set up a Bitcoin wallet. I don't know if I really want to receive much through Bitcoin because of how volatile it is. Would have been great to set up a Bitcoin wallet 5 years ago. You'd probably never have to work again. But isn't that a? I don't agree with the assumption in your question there. How is it the libertarians want less government, but want to expand marriage laws? Does it actually involve expanding government? Do we need to employ more government workers to deal with gay marriage? Is that how it works? You're a bit disappointed with David Leyonhjelm's apparent support. Yeah, well, he didn't really say. I didn't pin him down on. Do you think 190,000 people a year is too much or too few? He didn't seem particularly fussed about answering like what's an appropriate number. I think, and he did sort of address the question of which I put to him. It wasn't really a question; it was a statement. I said, "Look, 85% of immigrants go to the big cities. That's a problem, right there. I mean, that puts pressure on all kinds of things: amenity, infrastructure, obviously house prices." And another problem is that a lot of those immigrants they don't get spread out around the city. They go to the same areas out Western Sydney. And then you have these sort of enclaves that don't really assimilate. And that leads to problems. And it leads to, people like some of the Labor Party members who hold those seats. Now they're held hostage to the demands of those communities, and it's not a really good system. And that's why I think Leyonhjelm's suggestion of not letting people vote for quite a number of years and get citizenship and vote for quite a number of years is a good idea. Am I Sydney based? No. Well, yeah, I mean, do we think that leftists are going to stop because they've got gay marriage? No, of course not. Are they going to stop there and go, oh, yeah, we've got gay marriage now, so that'll be fine? Of course they're going to push. What I didn't get was that, for example, people running around saying, oh, safe schools is not going to be taught in schools. It already is taught in schools. And even if the no vote gets up, Victoria is going to teach it in schools. People were losing their shit. I mean, as was said on that ad for the No campaign, a teacher told my son that he could wear a dress. So what? If your son wants to wear a dress, let him wear a fucking dress. I don't get it. I don't get what the big problem is with that. Wear a dress. Go ahead. You're going to look like a weirdo. Who cares? Wear a dress then. Do you think conservatives will regain prominence in America? What was that question? It's just slid off the screen. Do you think conservatives will regain prominence in America now that a Republican is back in power? I think if you use the word conservatives, that probably says more about you than the conservatives. That's about as much as that question deserves. If you think that running around calling anyone that doesn't agree with Trump conservatives or fake news, then you're a dickhead. And, that's about all I have to say about that. Look. So if there are no other questions, we might call it a day. What do you say? I have no problem. All right. Looks like we're done with the questions. But if enough boys wear a dress, it will become a normality. Oh, will it? Is that right? So if you get like 5 boys in a school wearing dresses, then it's going to become normal? I mean, fucking seriously? Are you that stupid? Should daylight savings be introduced? No, I don't. I mean, it's annoying for me because I live right on the border. So, I go 5 minutes in one direction and it's a different time. I think New South Wales should get rid of it. We don't need it. What do we need it for? It's just annoying and dumb. I think we get rid of it altogether. Yeah, it is a stupid scheme. I think it's stupid. It's, I mean, if you know anything about, well, unless you're a flat earther, but you know that the season, the amount of daylight gets longer, obviously, as we get into the warmer months. So the day's already getting longer anyway, in terms of daylight. Yeah, I've seen your comment 3 times now. You think a camera would be better. Okay, yeah, suggestion noted. Now fuck off. Good call. New South Wales can get rid of it. Yeah, I hope so. But as you know, the days get longer. There's more daylight anyway. So I don't know what this extra hour is supposed to do. I don't know. It seems like a tradition now. Yeah, I mean, look, if you wear a dress, some people are going to think you're weird. You know what's going to happen at schools. You wear a dress if you're a guy. Some people are going to laugh at you, and then there's going to be, oh no, we can't bully people who have. I mean, I don't know how you actually get rid of bullying. It's a way of. It's a way of male interaction to some extent. Bullying. It's sort of how we socialize to some extent. So, I mean, you're probably not going to get rid of that. I think what you're going to find is some people will identify, they'll wear a dress because it's a look at me, I'm different, kind of like if any of you have seen the UK TV show called Humans, where some kids decide to identify as robots and they change the color of their eyes and pretend that they're robots. So kids will start doing that. Kids will start wearing a dress because it's fashion. I think that's what, some of this, if you saw the Canadian legislation about the 18C stuff that Jordan Peterson was talking about, that's gender identity was really it was about fashion and the way you present yourself to the world was some of the language, which could be anything. It's like being a goth or something like that. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm a bit skeptical of all this. The rise of transgenderism will be the end of civilization. I do think these issues are, at the end of the day, marginal, unimportant issues, and we shouldn't focus on them so much. But this is what it's come down to. Will the PC culture war ever die out? Oh, God. I hope so. We can actually get back to talking about stuff that matters. Anyway, that's I've rambled on for about 40 minutes now. So unless there are any last questions, I think we might call it a day there. What say you? Yes, I saw Elon Musk, his little sort of animated idea that you would have, you could jump on a spaceship, a rocket in, say, California and fly to Shanghai in 37 minutes. And yeah, I saw that the Tesla share price was flagging as well. So maybe it's just one of those distractions that he likes to dole out every now and then. I mean, Hyperloop, this new tunnel system he talks about, it's, I like the guy. I like that he thinks about how to make the world a better place and transport faster and more efficient. But a lot of it's pie in the sky stuff. Will we see Milo debate Clementine Ford? Oh, God, I hope not. See, this is the problem with Clementine Ford. I've never really talked about her that much. She's a troll. She lives off attention. That's all she is. If you just ignore her, she would go away, I think. How are the men's shed projects fasting in Australia? Nice. Well, I heard they're going pretty well. They've grown. They've been very successful. That's what I've heard. Where did I hear that? I heard it somewhere recently at a conference. It might have been on the Gold Coast. They're going pretty well. Real men wear kilts. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I should bring back the kilt. Bring the kilt, make that part of the Safe Schools program with no undies. That's how you wear a proper kilt, isn't it? You just wear kilts with no undies. Do you like Ben Shapiro? Would love to see him on the project. No, well, yeah, but you know what the project would do? They would film him for 45 minutes and then cut it down to 3. I mean, Andrew Bolt said it correctly when he said, never agree to go on the project unless you can go on live. But even then, they're going to set you up. I mean, they set you up with questions. They set you up. It's their, if you're opposed to their social justice ideology, all they're trying to do is get gotcha moments. I gotcha saying something, or even, have you in a situation where you can't answer the question. That's all they're looking for, trying to make a fool out of you. Okay, so if you're an Australian, I wish you all the best watching the NRL Grand Final today with a song which I don't know anything about popular music. I don't know anything about. I couldn't name you a song in the top 10 for the last 20 years. I have no idea. But apparently there's going to be a guy singing a song that is in favour of gay marriage or something. So that'll be interesting. And word was this morning that they're going to ban all yes, no, and rainbow flags from being taken into the stadium. So isn't that a whole pile of dog shit that they just created by themselves? That didn't have to happen. But the NRL, that's what they did. And now they have to live with it. So now you've got people going through people's bags as they go into the stadium to see if they have a flag. Well done. Great stuff. Way to make it political. You're from Canada. How does Australia view the Commonwealth? No idea. So that probably gives you some idea. We don't give a shit. Anyway, that's about it. Been raving on for 45 minutes. It's become incredibly boring. Until next time, maybe we'll try and reschedule a full live stream with Hagbard soon to discuss some of those issues. Until then, be good.